Alright, welcome back to CD's Repairs and Automotive. Today, or as tonight, has been the title of this video, we are replacing a air intake hose on this 2005 Honda Accord LX. Now, this goes for any of the Honda Accords from 2003 to 2007. Now, the parts you will need in order to change this hose is a pair of pliers, a extension, a 8mm and a 10mm, or a 10mm and a Phillips screwdriver would work. But I'm going to be using a 10mm and a 8mm to take this hose right here is what I'm talking about, the air intake hose, off. It is split, as you can see right here. There's a big old split in that. This is a tear, you can see that's leaking air, dirty air that's not good. And right in here it's split as well. It's a very common issue on these Hondas, especially the ones with the VTEC. There's a lot of force, torque between this part right here, which rips these hoses. So what you're going to do is you're going to need a 10mm to take this out, loosen this clamp. Then there's 4 fasteners, one here, that's an 8mm, one here, one there, and one down there. Go ahead and set the camera up, go ahead and get our tools together, go ahead and start taking this apart. Here's the new intake hose. See the difference, everything matches up, everything's the same. Now, if it doesn't come with the spring, which mine doesn't, and normally these don't, depending on what part store you get this from, it may come with the new spring. The spring, it goes around, keeps tension on this hose. You've got to take that spring off and transfer it to the new intake hose, which I'm going to do, and I'll show you exactly how to do that in just a minute. So, part number is, I only paid about $38 for this hose. No, take that back. It was around $30, about $32 at AutoZone. That's where I get all my parts at. 9696001 is the part number. There you go. Alright, so move all that aside. Go ahead and set up the camera where y'all can see what I'm doing, and I'll go ahead and get this thing off. Now, I do recommend taking this connector right here that goes to your map sensor, unplugging that, setting that aside, like say right here, just so you don't damage the connector any other way. You don't want that happening. 10mm, loosen that. Now, I will say this would be a good time to change your air filter if you haven't done it. This is basically how you change the air filter. In a sense, it'd be the same way. You would take these 4 fasteners out. And now, you don't have to worry about when you take these loose, you don't have to worry about them coming out or falling out. They stay inside the air filter box housing. So you do not have to worry about them falling out. Just make sure you do not strip them in any way. See, that's loose. Get your hand down in there if you got small hands like I do. You can get your hands down there usually, get the stuff loose. There you go. There's that one. And that one right here. That one's done. And that one way down there. Really, really hard to get your hands down there to get this stuff loose. And that one's loose. Alright. Then what you want to do is you want to take those pliers, take this clamp loose, which is really not that much tension on it, so I can actually do it with my fingers. Slide that out of the way. You can see it's split. It's actually split right there. So it's actually sucking in non-air. Oh, look at that. Just tore all together. Go ahead and move that out of the way. Now, what I want to say too as well, if you're doing this on a hot car, make sure that you let it cool down before you do it, because this pipe that comes from the intake or PCV valve is very, very extremely hot when the car after you drove it. So make sure you let it cool off before you start touching this pipe. Now the whole box should come out. Alright, now that you've kind of fight and cussed a little bit to get this thing out, you get her out. Make sure you get the hose, make sure everything lines up, everything's the same. It has the hose that goes to your intake, into your throttle body. Make sure it has this little clip right here for the bottom of the connector to go in, which this one does. You can see right here how bad dry rotted. I mean, this stuff is old, really hard. There's not really anything left of it anymore. You're going to need to take and transfer the clamp over, so make sure that's loose and transfer that over to your new one. One other thing I had a bad issue of getting out, whoever was in here last, whoever changed the filter last, did not put the filter in here right, the right way. I was wondering if the vehicle even ran right with it backwards like that. It was actually sitting like this when I finally got the box out. That's why, because if you see the bigger part right here, that's the deep part is supposed to go inside on the bottom, not the top. So make sure that you don't get that backwards if you're ever changing the air filter in one of these vehicles. The thicker part always goes down. Now, alright, we'll go ahead and transfer that over. Alright guys, here's what I was talking about that spring. Now this hose will not come off of the air intake until you take this spring. You see that hook right there? You got to unhook these and then the whole spring will pop off. Now it has a lot of tension, so be careful if you're doing this. Make sure you're wearing safety glasses so you don't want the spring popping out in your face. I've had that happen before. I've changed dozens and dozens of these hoses on these Honda Accords. It's a very common issue. Take this. May have to take some needle nose pliers to get that out. Alright, so very, very, very hard to get this spring to go back on. Let me get this zoomed in a little bit. You see what I'm talking about there, guys. Here it goes in. There's like a hook like this, and then another hook on the other side, and you've got to hook them in together and lock them. It's very, 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 very hard. There's extremely a lot of tension on this metal spring. Really and truly, if you couldn't get it, to be honest, I don't see any reason of leaving it off. It wouldn't hurt it any. The hose is not going to go anywhere. It's not going to slide off. It really has a tight grip when you slide this new hose on. Like I said, I really don't think it's going to go anywhere. It's just like a safety thing to make sure it stays on, because really and truly it stays in between here and it's not going anywhere. So, alright, so let's go ahead and get this back together. It's just reverse of what we took off. Alright, so everything is back together, as you can tell, as you can see. These fasteners, now I want to warn you, make sure that you be very careful if you're using a 3/8 ratchet like I am. Now I've got a 1/4 inch on this end. It's a 3/8 adapter changing into a 1/4 inch, so I can be able to use 1/4 inch sockets. 8mm. When you're doing it, make sure that you've got your hand at least up here when you're tightening it, because if you've got it way down here, you're not going to know exactly how tight that's getting, and with you doing that, you can actually strip it or break it. These are plastic fasteners. You want to make sure you be very careful with them. As long as they're tight and snug, they're good. They're not going anywhere. The spring is back on, the hose is on, the clamp is on, the air intake tube is back in, the clamp is on it. Don't forget about the connector that you removed. Click that in. That goes underneath here, just like so. And then you've got a small clip right here that clicks in just like that. There's your transmission dipstick, just in case you wanted to know where that's at. Everything's in there, everything's good. It's got a lot of space now to move around when the engine torques back and forth. For the VTECs, 3.0, or even the 4 cylinders with the VTEC, there's a lot of torque in these engines, and with along that wears out these hoses. Go ahead and start the vehicle up, run it, make sure everything's good, drive it down the road, see how it does. Everything else should be good. Now, if you have any questions or comments, leave it in the bottom. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you hadn't already, hit that subscribe button. Smash that button. I make how-to repair videos just about every other week, whenever possible, whenever I can. As y'all know, my garage burnt down. I'm still redoing that, still cleaning it up, still getting it together. Once I get that, we'll have more videos coming this way. Just stay tuned, y'all. Thanks for watching. Have a great night, wherever you are. Thanks. And don't forget to subscribe.